Hi guys, and by now you've reached that part of the workshop where you get to learn about selling your skills as a service. If I haven't been introduced already, my name is Eugene, and I'm of course part of the Comexposed team. Just to give you a bit of background, I'm the multimedia guy who's also been in different fields such as entrepreneurship. I've been in publishing, animation, and I've got a bit of experience in running some sort of an entrepreneurial, a venture inside of one of the toughest economies in the world while being a creative all at the same time. So thank you very much for getting to this part of the presentation. If you haven't walked out, you're a star, and do stick around. It only gets better from here. So my presentation is going to be about selling your skills as a service. This is definitely aimed at all of you, and our assumption at this point is we've got people from audio, we've got people from game development, illustration, and so on. So we're going to try and make this as general and as broad as possible. That's why we have the fancy graphic of the very skilled guy playing with the rodent. So without any further ado, let's get to it. So this presentation is going to cover three main topics. We're going to talk about positioning, how you position yourself. We're going to talk about how you build your audience. And then finally, we're going to talk about killing the competition. That's right, murder. So in positioning, we're talking about how you set yourself up or how you set your business up in relation to the environment. And by this, we're talking about your business environment. You need to be able to ascertain what skills you've got, what's on demand, and what you intend to provide as a service. For example, your positioning as an illustrator is important depending on what your immediate environment or market is asking for. Are people more interested in print publications in your environment? Are people more interested in comic books in your immediate market? All of those things play a pivotal part in your positioning. I'm a big fan of the video game monument Valiant. You're probably seeing that on screen right now, and it's a great metaphor for a number of things. We can use that as an example. It's a video game that you can get on mobile, but it's not targeted to everyone. It's not a complicated video game. Its simplicity and even its concept talk a lot about positioning. The idea is you position the little character in such a way that you change your environment and then you progress. That's a metaphor. And it's a metaphor for how you can provide something unique, because everything has some sort of unique factor. Let's take audio recording, for example. If you're big into recording and if you're an audio engineer, you can't specialize in everything. You can't be the generalist all the time. Figuring out your niche and how to position yourself in relation to your niche can help you get the best rewards out of what you do. That way, you work smart and not hard. An example that quickly comes to mind is how I positioned myself and got a lot of success as, a business person. By setting myself up as an illustrator and targeting specifically comic books for people of color, made it such that I didn't have to compete with people who were making comic books for the general market. I focused on what I was good at, I focused on something that was unique, and I managed to take myself to a place that leads us to our next point: building a moat. So Warren Buffett has got this really cool quote, it's probably on screen right now, about how you have to find a place or position yourself in such a way that you have a defensible castle. A castle that's in an area that no one can easily penetrate or invade. So if you think of your skill or your service and you make it such that it's not easy to replicate, it's not easy to imitate, and it's of course something that you're especially good at, you've got a moat. Think of the guys who do Foley and sound, and they do only that. They know it's very hard to get the equipment, to get the right, sources for the sound, and of course, the demand for that kind of work is very unique. So that's pretty much most of the things about positioning. I'm sure some of the slides have got some facts that you guys can still use. You can touch on those. But we'll move on to how to prioritize the platforms that you're going to use, specifically for marketing yourself. You've heard it all before. you've probably been in one of these workshops and you've heard the usual social media. Use Instagram, use Facebook, use Twitter. And it's become a bit of rhetoric because everybody's saying do the same thing, but they don't tell you exactly what to do. The old rules from the early 2000s don't apply anymore. Talking about consistency and being regular online. It's almost a slap to the face to anyone who really wants to use those platforms effectively. So on that note, social media is no match for specialist websites where professionals and consumers of a particular media congregate. If you look at the screen right now, you can see the logos for Unity Connect, Behance, ArtStation, Reverb Nation, and Vimeo. These are very, very unique platforms which attract professionals from very, very different fields. The difference between going to these platforms to market yourself and going to Facebook, for example, is you place yourself in an environment where consumers, the clients that you want, or peers, people you can network with, are readily available and they're paying attention to nothing but that. If you're obeying the rules of our first point, which talked about positioning and being unique and building moats, then you already know how to take advantage of such a website. It's way more of an advantage if you compare it to Facebook, where you're there with your relatives and your friends and friends from high school and people who might not exactly understand what C# is or what a reverb is or a VST plugin is or 3D printing is. You can see where I'm going with this. You need to be in a place where professionals and clients and consumers actually appreciate and can comment on this. There's also a really, really, really important psychological impact of being on one of these platforms, which is your confidence. Your confidence is bound to grow when you test yourself by placing your work at the same level as other professionals who are either more experienced or have a higher skill than you do. This works wonders for you because you can actually tell when you're growing or at least moving in the right direction. So apart from moving in the right direction, you also need to do it in a healthy way. And what I mean by that is the internet is full of trolls. We know this. And being a videographer or a cinematographer and just dumping your stuff on YouTube all the time, though it's effective and you get a very big audience, you also risk the impact of getting trolled. And your confidence is all you have, really. Because if you can't wake up in the morning to create the stuff that you enjoy, then you're gonna take a big hit. And when you work alone as a freelancer, it's not gonna do you any good. I think of a particular creative that I knew personally, and he was a stand-up comedian. And he relied heavily on Facebook. And the illusion of having his friends supporting him and his family supporting him online and laughing at his material gave him this false belief that he was absolutely excellent. Until the time he was challenged by actually putting his work together with other professionals on a platform that was designed and designated to stand-up comedians only, did he begin to see the actual skill gap. The advantage was he knew how to change and how to move in the right direction, but at the cost of spending so much time in a safe space where a lot of people who don't actually understand what he does were just gathering and giving him a false sense of confidence. Now, if you've got all those things, locked down, the next topic is one of interest to all of us because we believe that as business people, we need to be competitive, just like this really militaristic cat reading the book you can see right now. This topic is about how to kill the competition. This is the big twist in this presentation. There is no killing the competition. It's never going to happen. It's an unhealthy way of thinking, actually, if you're a freelancer, because the competition is not there to actually be something that you contend against or fight against all the time. The competition is part of the system. It's part of the marketplace. It's part of the environment. And you just have to fix yourself instead. There is no killing the competition. That is a myth. The good people at F-Stop is a really prominent outlet for photographers and cinematographers and film enthusiasts. has a really incredible quote about this. They say, competition is a healthy part of any industry and shouldn't be discarded as being bad. Competition is more about developing and improving your own work than it is putting down others. If we remember that, we can use the healthy competition to strengthen the market and continue to grow and learn from one another. So there you have it. It's really not a contest. It's not a race. It's just business. The more you think about this, the more you look inward as to how you can fix your own independent processes. So most freelancers or creatives working in the gig economy as it is known today don't have the experience of working in a team. And when you don't work in a team or you don't work in an organization, you have a full sense of standards. That's a lot to take in. And what this means is you don't know exactly what the industry standard for timekeeping is. So typically you'll find an artist, an editor, a coder taking more time than what is taken by a guy who's confined by a system of shifts or cubicle, you know what I mean. And generally, it means you're not as efficient. So looking inward means you need to start being tough with yourself and accepting the fact that you need to either catch up with the guys that work within that kind of framework or just get better, be more efficient, figure out your shortcomings. Collaboration. Again, this is an area that takes a big hit when you're not working in an actual organization, agency, studio, production house. Collaboration is something you miss out on, so most of the times us geeks and freelancers, we lack the people skills. We lack the ability to network. We lack the ability to engage others constructively. And of course, this is the kicker. We all have this weakness. We take negative criticism badly. So when you look at this system of killing the competition, you start to realize that it doesn't work, and instead you got to go back and look at these different areas of collaboration. Collaboration with other creatives, multi-discipline design is a great way to expand your network, your skills, and your ideas. That's from Hassel, and it's absolutely correct. Expanding your network instead of competing with your network means you're working smart, you're not working hard. One of my favorite freelance digital painters who does matte paintings for Hollywood films, James Pike, was quoted as saying, "Creating an organization system that works for you is the key to surviving your freelance career. Since you have no direct boss, no one will tell you to do this, so you must take the initiative. If you can, schedule out your day, your week, your month, then create reminders for yourself. I try to create daily routines by setting myself mini goals. Mini goals are a way to set frequent targets without getting overworked or physically burnt out. Your organization system should be as simple as it can. Often, overly complex systems actually add complexity to your tasks." This next bit really cracks me up because it applies to me. He says, "I prefer to use a paper journal that I have on me at all times, so I can reference and archive completed tasks. I find that analog methods embed information more clearly in my mind, and software or online solutions are often just a crutch." When it comes to all the people that I've worked with, I've often encouraged them to use notebooks and actually write things down. I think of a professional that I worked with, and he had this incredible pen. This pen could literally take notes through audio. It had a microphone in it, and as he wrote, it would actually scan what he's writing and transfer it to the cloud, and at the same time it would listen to what everyone else is saying, and then it would highlight some of the keywords, put them into text, and send them into this one document. The irony of that sophisticated pen that he had for all of these meetings and things that we attended together was that we never saw the documents that he compiled, and everyone else who had a traditional notebook seemed to get things more accurately and better archived than he did. I agree with James Pike when he said sometimes online solutions are a crutch, and of course it doesn't apply to everyone, but it's worth noting. And it's definitely an area that we can all improve in order to be more efficient amongst ourselves and to do better than our peers who are maybe a little bit too consumed in digital organizations and, digital methods of planning and organizing, archiving and structuring. So that's something worth looking at. Another thing that we can do in order to take advantage or live or coexist with our competition is to figure out where we fit in within our environment. Going back to our first point about positioning, this is very much related. If you understand that companies are rarely reading anything from platforms like Artists for Hire, you can always look for existing adverts. Yes, the good old-fashioned adverts still work. You can look at these and actually email the advertisers. It sounds so backward or so archaic, but at the speed that things are going and given the convenience that's there through the internet, a lot of freelancers are actually beginning to avoid the good old-fashioned approach of emailing, stating what your skills are, approaching the client directly and just taking a chance. This is the same for events. You've heard it all before, but to be honest, the majority of us tend to ignore this. Gathering the skill, yes, it's a skill, of approaching people and giving your elevator pitch is absolutely essential. And in this antisocial, internet-based world that we live in, it's something that's getting undermined more and more. So, in order to outlast your competition, you need to be able to be diverse in these areas. Looking at yourself, how to fix your own structures, your processes and protocols. And of course, not fighting with everyone else that's in the industry, but collaborating, engaging, networking with them instead. This is what will make you work well within the competitive atmosphere. So, on that note, I'll be signing off. And like the famous pig from Warner Brothers says, that's all, folks. But I'm not leaving you alone. You guys still have Keith and Tino, and I'm sure they're up to the task of taking any questions or making any comments. If you've got any comments, you can definitely leave those with these guys. They're up to the task of answering anything that you guys might have. And of course, you can look me up and send me a tweet or an email. My contacts are definitely somewhere in this video. And I'll be more than happy to get back to you and assist you in any way that I can. But for now, I will leave you guys with my physical friends and hope you enjoyed the rest of the workshop. And remember to enjoy yourself and believe in yourself. Peace.